So we're here among the Stones with Matt Sahlfeld. So Matt, go ahead and tell everybody a little about yourself for those who don't know who you are.
I'm 36 years old. I've been lifting for quite a long time, although, I really don't show it. I kind of got a case of bad luck. I got colon cancer. So I'm kind of going through that. Hopefully I'll be done with that soon. And I'll just be able to focus on lifting and getting strong. I've been pretty thankful. I've gotten to keep quite a bit of strength going through this treatment. My roots are kind of like, I started lifting for football, for high school football. And then I went and played a couple years of college football, and I realized I really didn't like football. I liked preparing for football with the weightlifting. So then I just kind of focused more on that, and I found powerlifting. And then I found Big Iron Gym in Omaha. It was run by Rick Hussey at the time.
Okay.
And I had a lot of fun and met a lot of neat people. I had a few injuries which kind of pulled me from powerlifting. And then my kid was born, and it was kind of like, I got to focus on being a dad,
Yeah.
So I kind of had to give up the powerlifting because it takes up a lot of your time. Like,
Okay.
You're having to eat, you're having to make sure you get plenty of sleep. There's just not a lot of time for anything else when you're powerlifting. And then it kind of becomes an addiction because you're always wanting higher and higher numbers. I'm sure you can kind of, that,
Oh yeah.
You always want to better yourself. Now I'm kind of starting into arm wrestling. And hopefully I can do this. There's a tournament the 17th. I've had a couple of practices with a guy here. His name is Lee Freeman. He's been arm wrestling, I think he said, for like 40 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he knows what he's doing. But I just found him not too long ago, so I haven't gotten too many practices. It's kind of hard to find people around here. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong spot, but so I haven't got to practice a lot. So I don't really feel like 100% confident, but I think I just need to do it. But hopefully these treatments will allow that. I'm doing radiation treatments now, which are kind of getting brutal here towards the end. But I can't complain. It could be much worse, so that's kind of where I'm at now. Is there anything else you'd like to know, or
is that your first arm wrestling competition you're going into?
Yep, that'll be the very first one.
Right on. That's awesome. Do you feel like having a lot of strength going into your treatments has helped you?
The way it started out, I kind of focused on doing like small things. Like I did some kettlebell swings, and they were just kind of real lightweight. And I did that for just higher repetitions, just to keep my blood moving. And then I would focus more on like some wrist movements and stuff like that. So I feel like training and continuing to train while I was going through these treatments has helped a lot. Because I think a lot of people fall into where they feel bad, so they just don't do anything at all. But that, I feel, would just make you feel even worse. Because when I'd go get these infusions, I'd be sitting in this chair for like 8 hours, and they're pumping all these, these chemo drugs into me. And I tell you what, that made me feel the worst, was just sitting in that chair for 8 hours, not being able to really do anything. So I think it's real important to lift and do what you can, while you're going through things like that. Because it's going to keep you healthy. It's going to keep your blood circulating.
Man, that's a huge statement right there, because there's so many Americans that choose to sit in a chair for several hours in front of a TV all day. And, here we have someone who's dealing with cancer that's saying that the worst part of it is sitting on your butt for 8 hours. So
yeah. And it's, I blame myself, you know, for getting the cancer, because I had some lifestyle habits that I think contributed to it. You know, and I think sometimes you gotta look back, and you gotta see your situations in life, and you gotta realize, hey, I may have caused this, you know. What can I do to make this better, you know, and hopefully move on and better myself from that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you compete in powerlifting before?
Yeah, I competed quite a bit. I don't remember all the meets I did.
Yeah.
But I competed. I never did raw. I would have liked to, but I started like I got hurt before I got to kind of test my raw numbers.
Yeah.
So I was multiply is what I was doing at the time. That's what the whole gym did. So, and at the time that was real big. You know, the WPO and all that stuff. You know, the Arnold Classic. And I kind of wish I would have got the chance to do that. That was kind of a thing I wanted to do, was compete at the WPO at the Arnold Classic, but then all of a sudden there was some falling outs there, and the WPO went away. So never did get to do that.
Now, do you think that you would have had more injury or less injury on the raw route? Because I would think that the fly suits sort of help keep everything in the right spot, help you avoid injury.
So what happened to me was I was warming up. Most of my injuries happened when I was warming up.
Okay.
I partially tore my pec, and I never got it looked at, because I heard that unless you fully tear it, they're not going to do surgery or anything. So at the time, I knew that I'd partially tore it because there was still something there. But and then I tore a hamstring, and that was a partial tear. That one wasn't bad at all. That didn't take too long to heal up. But after I tore the pec, I was like, you know, chances are I'm probably just going to tear it off completely if I keep going, you know.
Yeah.
So I kind of I kind of gave up at the time. At that time, Rick, I think he passed away not long after that. And that kind of, like, he made it fun, you know. And he was just a great coach. He could call your numbers, and he was just a lot of fun. So that kind of took a lot of it away when he passed away.
Yeah.
So he was kind of, you know, the glue that held the whole team together. So in my opinion, once he passed away, it kind of just wasn't the same. So
Yeah, I understand that. That's part of being in the martial arts scene, is a lot of the great instructors are in their 70s and 80s or whatever, and you lose a lot of them doing martial arts. So I mean, I understand that it changes the whole atmosphere.
yep.
So what motivated you to compete when you used to be competitive, and what's motivating you to compete in arm wrestling?
So me, I kind of realized that I started out in team sports, but I realized, you know, individual sports are much better because it's all on you. You know, if you're not doing well, or you're not succeeding, it's probably because of something that you're not doing, you know, and you need to work harder. Because yeah, it was just frustrating when I played football. A lot of guys, you know, they weren't training as hard as I was, and then you just lose games, you know, and it wasn't maybe specifically because of you, but your
Yeah.
teammates, you know, failing. So
Oh yeah, like LeBron on the Cavs. He's scoring 60 points, and the rest of the
yeah,
team's not making the other 36 they need to win.
right, exactly. And that, to me, that's just frustrating, and I really don't see that being fun, you know, because it's you know, you can't do anything about it. So that's kind of why I chose like powerlifting. I've always just been in awe of you know, all the strong guys growing up, you know, watching the World's
Yeah.
Strongest Man
Oh
and
yeah,
all
every
that kind of
Christmas.
thing. Yeah, and so that was you know, just, you know, and I never really went into strongman because those guys are just so massive, and I didn't really see myself getting that big.
Yep.
I think the heaviest I've ever been is about 260. So
Okay. Yeah, I've been up to 256, and I'm also 36, and I grew up watching that same thing. So yeah, I thought the same thing, and that's why I like grip, because I'm like, well, at least I can rip a deck of cards in half or whatever. So it's
yeah,
still cool.
I'm hoping someday I can do that. I kind of, since I decided to do this arm wrestling competition, I've kind of tried to be more focused on it. So I haven't really focused on the grip stuff as much as I was. And I haven't really developed a training routine. It's kind of hard for arm wrestling because there's just so many things you can do.
Yeah.
And since I started actually practicing, I've kind of seen like what's important and what I need to work on. So
yeah,
I think
it's the same way with grip. There's so many different implements out there and so many different tests, but I mean, should you really train with a penny pinch? Probably not. It's probably not going to do a whole lot for you. So it's like,
yeah, and that's kind of what I'm running into with all that stuff, because I notice it's just very hard to progress on some, like I have the hub. The hub for me is just it's a hard implement to progress on.
Yeah, see, I never hubbed for months, and then on one day I just hub lifted my 45-pound plate and never done it before, and it just come from like doing pinch work and other fingertip work.
I know that when you cut like your finger underneath like that just hurts really.
I can't do that one. Yeah, I don't do it that way. I do it the hard way. Way.
See, I noticed that a lot of guys they do it like in the competition, they do it that way because I guess you can lift more weight. I guess.
I guess so. Yeah.
But yeah, it really hurts your thumb pretty bad. But yeah, I've never focused on the other way. Maybe I'll try that and just to because that might be more beneficial for arm wrestling to just for that thumb to strengthen that thumb up.
Oh yeah, it's worse than doing a hook grip.
Yep. Yeah, see, I used to use the hook grip when I powerlifted, and nobody else really used it at the time. I know now it's like everybody's using that hook grip.
Yep.
I feel like it just puts your arms in a way better position to deadlift than the mixed grip. Yeah, because with the mixed grip, you're kind of like, I can't even do it mixed grip anymore because I just feel like it's torquing, like trying to turn my body.
I've never tried mixed grip. I've only done double over hook grip and then double over with straps. So when I do a heavier weight, I just do double over with straps.
Yep, and I think that's the way to go. You don't have to worry about that torn bicep that everybody gets at some point.
Yikes! Yeah, good thing.
I mean, yeah, if you watch a lot of those guys with the mixed grip, it must be like it just like a reaction to kind of tense your arm up.
Yeah,
the arm that's the underhand, and I think that's where you get that torn bicep because you're flexing it so hard.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between, when you're training for competition and you have to do it a certain way to stay competitive and be able to lift the most amount of weight as possible, you do it a certain way. But if you're not going to a powerlifting meet, then you could probably lift the bar, get stronger, and do it in a safer way.
Yep.
That's a big part of what we focus on, is just how can I get really strong and avoid injury at the same time.
Yeah, that's what you got to figure out. It's easy to kind of just max out all the time, but you're gonna at some point you probably injure yourself.
Yeah,
and that's what I gotta watch that myself because I'm always kind of chasing numbers, but it's hard to not do that. But you gotta step back and not do it at some point.
Yep, absolutely. I think that that's something I'll probably wind up getting the itch for, chasing numbers once I get better at my grip, because right now my numbers are not good, but once I start seeing them creeping up there, I'll be like, oh, maybe I can get this much. I'll start being careful of that.
Well, and that's kind of what's happened to me with that with the pinch block, because and grip training is frustrating anyways, because you'll lift something and it'll feel super light, and then you'll add 10 pounds and it'll be like it won't budge, or it slips out of your hand. And it's frustrating, but you know, it's better than, I guess, missing a heavy deadlift or something. You know, it doesn't tax you as much.
Yeah, for sure. It's just hard to make the progress. Like you said, you're like, oh, if I add 2.5 pounds, I can't get it off the ground. So
Yeah.
am I just gonna lift this lighter weight 20 times? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, it's weird how that works too, because like you can take 2.5 pounds off, lift it like you said 20 times. It just doesn't compute, doesn't make any sense. But that's the way it works.
So what do you consider your best athletic achievement?
You know, I would hope that I haven't really reached one yet. Hopefully there's more in store. But you know, I suppose my 804 squat, I was pretty happy about that. It was
That's
at
crazy,
240.
man.
Well, it was at 242, so I wasn't, you know, I was heavy at the time.
Yeah, it's still triple body weight. That's nuts. That's awesome.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I did I did want to total 2,000 at 198, but I think I was a couple pounds heavy. I think it was about 200, so I missed out on that.
So that would have been a 10x body weight total.
Yeah, that was a goal I wanted, and I also wanted to deadlift 700, but the highest I ever got was in training. I deadlifted 675. Competition I did 666, which
Wow.
was at it was at 220 body weight. So
Okay. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, what's your greatest blunder or injury?
probably when I tore my pec.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. You know, I think it happened. It was during the winter time, and you know, you don't really think you could be dehydrated during the winter time, but I'd been walking around or something outside, and I think I sweat more than I thought I had, and I was just warming up, and I was doing some I think it's some board presses, and it just went, and it's kind of. Have you ever torn a muscle?
I've never had a bad tear. I mean, I've had some small tears, but nothing serious worth talking about.
Yeah, it's just crazy because it's like
My brother was here; he'd be able to tell you about it.
huh?
I said my brother's had some good tears, but no, I haven't. I've been really cautious, and I've stayed extremely flexible, or tried to as much as I can.
Yeah,
And then when I PR by like a half a pound.
right, there you go. Keep it safe. But yeah, for me, it was like when I tore muscles, it was like spaghetti noodles. You know, when you break the spaghetti noodles before you cook them, and it didn't really hurt, but I felt like I felt a tearing. You know, like a dry tearing. And then I kind of always get sick to my stomach, you know, because my body knew something was wrong, but like it didn't really hurt. It was more of like a dull pain.
Yeah.
So, and it's irritating because it happens so quickly. It's like you can't do anything about it, but you know, let it happen, I guess. So
Then you just got to deal with being out for a while. That's probably more frustrating than the tear.
Yep.
So it seemed to be most frustrating for my brothers not being able to get back in the gym.
Yeah, especially, you know, when you've been and you probably know this, it's like every day you got to do something. You know, for me, it's hard to not do anything. You know, take a whole day off or something. Like I got to do something.
Yeah, we try to take Sundays off, but I usually wind up getting out here and doing something.
Yep. Yeah, for me, it's arm wrestling. You're like doing forearms all the time, and I've kind of gotten addicted to doing that. So you kind of notice all the videos I post, like forearm curls all the time.
Lots of wrist curls with some big numbers. I saw those. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get away from doing them flat.
Okay.
I don't know if those are as beneficial. I think for me it'd be maybe doing them from a pulley or something, but it's hard to keep a technique where you can gauge your strength. The flat ones, it's pretty easy to keep that same technique, and you're able to see your numbers and gauge the strength. So I don't know. It's just really hard to find. I've kind of been watching a lot of videos, you know, with like Devin Larott and Todd Hutchings and stuff, and
the monsters.
Yep, and they have a lot of you know, training things that they do. So I kind of try to mimic some of that stuff. But for me, I really like doing those wrist curls from that little bench that I made, you know, that I set my arm on. So I still do them because it's fun for me. So I like to do them. And then I did some from the pins of the power rack that I have. And those were just funny because I was able to lift so much weight, but I don't feel like they really did anything, you know.
Mhm.
So I don't know, unless you tried them, it'd be hard to describe how it felt. It was almost like it was just like a balancing act on my wrists or something, you
Okay,
know. So
more than a lift. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, my wrists, it felt like they were lifting it, but it felt like it was more of a balancing act. It's hard to describe. So I kind of shied away from doing those because I don't. And then the bend of the bar too. It's just really awkward movement. So I haven't been doing those. And then
So have you been into arm wrestling pretty much all your life? Have you watched those guys most of your life?
yeah, when I was younger, you know, it all started with that movie, the Sylvester
Oh
Stallone
yeah, yeah.
Over the Top. And then I kind of followed it, and but it wasn't real big. And then you know, I arm wrestled in high school, you know,
Okay.
for at the you know, the what do you call it, the lunch table, you know, people made bets and all that good stuff. But I never really got into it. Wasn't something that was real big in my area, so I kind of just, you know, continued with football and weightlifting. So and I've always wanted to do it, but you know, it's just finding people, you know, that actually do it. It's hard to find them. So actually found a guy, you know, so hopefully we can continue to train, and hopefully I can get better.
Yeah, I remember when they used to have it in the World's Strongest Man, and there's of course that
Yeah,
famous arm break that
yeah,
Magnus Samuelson pulled off. That was crazy.
yeah. And you know, it's easy to do that because you don't think about it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's important that people starting out, that they realize that that can happen, and that you know how to avoid that. And I mean, just like any other sport, sometimes you won't be able to avoid that.
Yeah, I think
Um,
they got rid of that after that year. They said no more doing a sport that requires a ton of technique when our guys have no idea what they're doing.
Not only that, I mean, it's just like
Dangerous.
it's crazy how much ligament and tendon strength that those guys build up over time, from
Yeah.
just the continuous abuse. Um, you know, like my elbow used to hurt pretty bad when if you seen that I do a lot of those side motions
Hmm.
with that pulley. My elbow used to hurt pretty bad doing that, and I kind of just kept going, and now it doesn't hurt so bad, but I mean, it still hurts a little bit, but not like it used to. Like my arm used to get pretty inflamed, but I kind of just stuck with it and kind of tried to toughen it up. So
Yeah, it's crazy. Some of those guys' wrists and forearms get so thick up in the area right underneath their hand. It's like John Brezink. His forearm is nuts right up in that area. I
yeah.
watched a lot of him growing up because he was during that time period for sure. And
Mhm.
Ron Bath was another one that I watched a lot when I was younger.
Yeah, and hopefully at some point I think they had a competition down in Kansas City where uh, Ron Bath was there, and it'd be kind of neat to see him in person. So hopefully at some point I can, you know, get down there and watch and maybe compete. But who knows, you know, and time will tell. So
What do you think about Khaled going into arm wrestling and Larry Wheels trying with all these guys and all that excitement that's going on, getting attention to the sport?
yeah, you know, it really blew up, and hopefully it continues to do that. I think Khaled, didn't he go to, isn't he Ultimate Fighting now, or
I think
martial
that's
arts?
what he is. Yeah, he started out experimenting around, figuring out what he wanted to do, but I think he's in MMA now.
Hopefully he'll continue with the grip stuff, because I mean, he probably could have had some records, couldn't he?
I don't think it would have been long before he would have definitely taken some big grip records.
so hopefully he kind of throws that into the mix there along with it.
Yeah,
It
it's
would have
not
been
like it's going to hurt his MMA.
right, and it would have been cool to kind of see him in arm wrestling more, but I wonder if he's done with that. But and
That'd be tough
hopefully,
to do while doing MMA, I'd imagine.
yeah, I bet
Yeah.
so. So he might be done for a little while.
Yeah, I think
Hopefully
you could do
Larry
grip,
can
but
come.
arm wrestling, man, the torque you guys deal with, that would, that would take you out from doing a fight for a little while.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, and it's crazy because like when you practice, um, it's hard. Like a lot of guys think you just go all out all the time, and you do to an extent, but you can only do it like it's like maxing out. For
Yeah.
me, if I'm going against a guy, that's equal strength, it'd be just like maxing on bench all the time.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so you kind of got to figure out a way to practice. Um, so
Kind of
I
got to
mean,
work with guys of lower strength and kind of got to let them feel your strength and work with guys of higher strength and
yeah,
they'll let
yeah,
you feel their strength and you got to be a good training partner.
yeah,
And I think there's definitely a lot of mutual respect and understanding with strength levels in that sport, and that's really cool. It's how it is, of course, in martial arts and fighting too. You have to fight people better than you, and you have to train people that are not at your level. And if you do it wrong, you're just gonna screw them up.
yeah. And that's when I first started. I was practicing with a guy. He's about 360 pounds, and yeah. And when we first
Yeah,
started, like he popped my elbow.
that's some side pressure right there.
Yeah, and it was my fault because he took my hand, and I was still pressing, kind of that position that what Mega Man was it Mega Man? When he broke his arm.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I was kind of in that same position, and something popped in my elbow, and I never had it looked at, but I know it sure hurt for a while. It took a while to kind of get that strength back, but
Do you
and
just
then
not like doctors?
I try to never. When I first got this diagnosed, I told him, I said, unless something's really bad with me, like maybe I'm just dumb, like I just keep continuing going on, but I couldn't ignore the stuff that was happening to
Yeah,
me at that
exactly.
point. And it was kind of funny because I think I kind of downplayed it to the doctor because they didn't really have the colonoscopy for a month and a half, so I continued to suffer. And they told me to call, and to me, and I told him, I said it was bad the entire time, so I never realized when it was worse.
Yeah.
So I look back on it, and I probably should have went to the doctor sooner, but that's just it didn't play out that way. So yeah, I'm just really bad at gauging things. I kind of just wait till my arm's ripped off or
Until
something.
it's way worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, luckily that healed up, and then I talked to the guy and I said, hey, we got to like practice moves and stuff like that because I can't do this. You're much larger than me, so it'd be like me trying to bench 500 pounds continuously.
Yeah.
At some point I'm just going to injure myself.
So, other than getting back into arm wrestling, do you have any other, or getting into arm wrestling, do you have any other major goals athletically on your mind?
I'd like to do something with grip. I'd like to enter a grip competition at some point. Here in Nebraska, though, there's not much going on with grip, so I kind of played around with the idea of maybe starting, with the Grip Genie thing going on.
Yeah.
They're actually having people able to sponsor events. So I don't know. I kind of played around with that idea to maybe try to get something here in Nebraska going. But I think that'll be a little bit down the road. I got to deal with this stuff first to get these doctor's appointments and stuff out of the way. So
Yeah, that's what we wound up doing up here in the Northwest is we looked around for other people in grip and found out that, there used to be a community here, and it sort of died out in the past couple of years. So we had to kind of fire it back up. which is kind of cool because it means there's some, people around that know about it, were involved with it. So that helped out.
Right, right. And I think that's kind of how it was here in Nebraska. I think,
Okay.
Years ago, I think there were quite a bit of competitions going on, but now, like you said, it seems to have died out. So, there's a lot of guys doing powerlifting here. Powerlifting's pretty live here, but other than that, arm wrestling doesn't. It's kind of big, there's quite a few guys doing arm wrestling, but the grip stuff, it seems like that has died off. So
yeah, I think it'd be something you could get fired up in Nebraska. There are a lot of strong dudes out there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So are there any lifestyle habits that you subscribe to that help you stay fit at home, stay fit and healthy?
Ever since this has started, I've really started watching my diet. I used to have like cheat days and stuff like that. Now I really don't. I kind of, I don't think those are really needed.
Yeah.
If you just stay on a diet, and I've had to cut a lot of things out of my diet, so I kind of realized that I don't need those things. And then just, lifting every day, and I bought a bike, like a stationary bike. I kind of try to use that when I can. These treatments kind of make me lose weight anyways, so I got to watch, what I do cardio wise. And I got to watch my calorie intake, because, I'm not hungry all the time, but, I gotta eat something. So.
Well, I mean, that's just like your powerlifting days.
Yeah, but then, I just kind of ate whatever I wanted, just a lot of it. So, and that probably wasn't right. I should have just, a little bit of a calorie surplus. But, when you're young like that, you don't really think about those things. And I really didn't listen to all the, eating too much red meat and all that kind of stuff. Now that I look back on it, it's like, I should have listened to that a little bit. I didn't need to eat the amount of red meat that I was eating crazy amounts of that stuff. And then I did that keto diet for a while. And I didn't do it very good. I was eating a lot of bacon and deli meats and stuff. And then, the research that I did, those are all things that help cause colon cancer. So, should have done more research before I dove into that. So I had a better plan.
Yeah, I'm in the same spot with the whole red meat thing, because my father has had heart attacks and he's dealt with cancer, and I'm your age and I still eat red meat, and I'm like, man, I need to cut that out. So.
Well, see, for me, I was eating at least, like, I don't know what it was, but I was able to eat a lot of meat. I would eat, a pound of ground beef in a setting. And
oh, sound cut off.
To eat.
Sound cut off there for a minute.
What?
Oh, sound cut off there for a bit. You were saying about you're eating a pound of ground meat in a sitting. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, and then I would eat like a whole package of bacon in a setting. It's just stuff I didn't need to eat. So I kind of just, that was extreme, but that's what I did at the time. So I can't take it back. I can only improve myself from here. So.
Absolutely. So, have you found any kind of strange type of unconventional training that has helped your performance a lot?
For arm wrestling?
For anything?
Well, for arm wrestling here lately, I've been focusing more on like my fingertips, with like fatter handles.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Jokabug does that a lot too, John Oka, and of course we know he arm wrestled for 40 years or something.
Yeah, and he's a wealth of information. I've talked to him a little bit, so he's a pretty good guy. But yeah, for me, it's like your fingertips, your fingers, training your fingers. And then high reps, like doing a lot of high rep stuff. I've noticed I feel much better, they say that that's how you strengthen and thicken your tendons and your ligaments. You know, but as for like scientific studies, I haven't really found any scientific studies on that. But it does seem to make you feel better, at least in my opinion. It's not as fun, you know, because you're not getting to say, oh, I lifted a huge amount of weight. It's more, you know, you're doing like hundreds of reps. But it does.
Might be a much safer way though to get your fingers stronger.
Yep. And I mean, you just feel better, and then over time, like I don't really get sore a lot, like my forearms don't, which is kind of frustrating because I'd like them to be sore, you know. I kind of miss that feeling.
Yep.
And they don't really get pumped up much anymore. I don't know if maybe that might just be the chemo doing that, but I do notice when I lift and do high reps, yeah, I get a burn. But as far as like a pump, I really don't get a huge pump in my forearms anymore. So I don't know if that means they're conditioned or what. I don't know.
Yeah, it might just mean you're taxing the tendons and ligaments directly more than taxing the muscles in the forearms.
Right.
I mean, if that's the goal, then right on.
Right. Something else I kind of do, I do a lot of like kettlebell swings, light kettlebell swings, but I kind of do them differently. I focus more on like actually using my back, like bending my back.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I do that is because I'm trying to build my lower back, and kind of an idea that I have is your back is supposed to bend a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
And as long as you're not using massive amounts of weight, I think that's pretty safe. You know, your body's made to bend, you know. So just avoiding that bending, you know, you're at some point you're going to injure yourself. That's just the way I think. So I think it's good to train kind of funny positions sometimes with lighter weights and higher reps, because I think that can build a little resiliency in your body, you know.
Absolutely, especially the lower back. We train the core, and you know, a lot of the lifts we do train the core, but the spinal erectors get pretty ignored.
Yeah, and for me, once I quit powerlifting, you know, I didn't realize those muscles go away pretty quickly. You know, and they're they can be very strong muscles.
Yeah.
So once you lose them and you're still trying to kind of lift in those manners, that's kind of where you get injured. So you got to make sure, you know, nobody really tries to target their lower back. You know, you're kind of taught to keep that area straight, you know, and never really train it. So it never really gets a lot of work. And then on top of that, if you're wearing like a belt, you know, it doesn't really get a lot of work.
Yeah, 100% agree. And especially with posture, you know, as we get older, posture becomes huge, and your lower back is, I think, I don't know, extremely important when it comes to that.
Yeah, I got pretty bad posture myself because I got scoliosis, so my back's already kind of bent funny. So I got to make sure I train it. So
100%. I have thoracic spine arthritis, so I have arthritis in the middle area of my back, like right behind my chest. So that's why I focus on having a larger, stronger upper body. Basically, a long time ago when I was diagnosed, they said, you know, if you train your upper body and train your back and your muscles, you may not have any issues when you're older, but you're going to have to work hard at it. So
right,
that's been the whole key for me, is doing that.
That's kind of a hard area of your back to kind of hit. At least for me, I've had trouble hitting that area.
Yeah, a lot of rows. Yep.
Yeah, for me, it's like the rows that seem to always, like, I always feel it more in my arms. You know, I'm probably doing it wrong, maybe, but
believe it or not, the bent press helps me feel better when my back is really stiff, or if I'm having a bad day with the arthritis. Doing bent presses with light weight helps release that stiffness in that area.
Is that like the overhead press where you?
That's the one where you're completely sideways and you're bent up this way.
Oh, okay. So kind of it's like a Turkish get up kind of.
Yeah, it's an old timey strongman lift for sure. Where they'd
Yeah.
bend their body completely over and have the arms, straight up, and their
You know,
shoulders would be, straight with the ground, perpendicular to the ground.
Well, see, now that you mentioned that, I was kind of thinking how, on YouTube, you got all these channels that are always kind of making fun of people doing funny lifts. But back in the day, that's all they did was all these funny lifts. But I mean, like everybody's so judgmental on people's lifting technique, and it's like, who cares? If you want to be good at like, lifting your pinky up or something, like, why does it matter to other people?
That's why I love the natural rocks. There's no one can say that's not the right way to lift that rock. You're like, well, go ahead, lift that rock.
Exactly.
That rock is heavy over here and back there and over here and not heavy here. So figure it out,
Yeah.
So,
and I think,
I love that.
Well, I think a lot of that's coming back. Like, you see a lot of guys doing the Zerker lifts and stuff now.
Yeah, functional strength is coming back.
Yep, I think a lot of people, I think it's gaining popularity. So, and I think that's good because lifting should be fun. People, you should find something you enjoy, and it doesn't have to be the squat, bench press, or deadlift. It can be something else.
I think if we're going to have a healthy culture, like a healthy society, then we need to realize that 1% of people, or maybe 5% of most, are going to want to compete doing this fitness stuff, this health, this lifting. Nobody, hardly anybody's going to want to compete. So maybe we'll evolve into not doing always competitions, but instead doing our competition lifts in that groove of a competition lift, but instead inventing new movements or, coming up with programs that help people in their day-to-day lives. What's going to help someone carry the groceries in? What's going to help someone carry their baby on their hip all day? What's going to help someone do these various things? What's going to help the construction worker that's always bent down on his knees doing electrical work low or something? What's going to help those guys, the carpet layer or whatever?
Yep.
So I think that as we evolve, it would be really neat to see that happen. Functional strength that's geared towards helping people traverse through their world better and helping them do their occupations better.
Yep. And just just going to the gym and doing something. You don't have to do a specific routine that some person made up. Just do what you want to do. Just do what you like to do.
For sure. If you were going to start your training over with what you know now, what would you do different?
Oh man. Well, first it'd be my diet. I would focus on just eating the amount of food that I needed, and probably document that. And then and I did pretty decent with researching all the lifting. Because I kind of taught myself. Started out doing like that bigger, faster, stronger kind of thing, which was it was kind of a knockoff of West Side, I think. So, for me that worked pretty well, and probably just not maxing all the time. At least for me, when I started out, it was you got addicted to maxing out all the time, because just seeing yourself get stronger, and then you hear somebody else lifted this, so you think you got to lift that, to be stronger. But then sometimes you find out, somebody's not that strong in the weight room, but they're just strong in the real world. It's kind of just one of those funny things. So I would kind of focus on that too, that, you don't have to lift a certain number to be successful, at sports. Sometimes it just happens, you're just naturally better. But I don't know why. I don't know if anybody really knows why that is, but just because you lift a certain weight doesn't mean you're gonna, triumph over somebody else. So
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, just look at the best NFL players and their combine numbers. They're not always the guys that put up 225 the most.
Right, exactly. And I don't know why it works that way. I don't think really anybody does, but sometimes that's just the way it works.
Yep, it's just they have the perfect combination.
Yep.
So, what's the most important piece of equipment you have in your home gym?
Oh man. Well, if I'm gonna compete in arm wrestling, it'd be my table that me and my buddy made out of wood. But I really I think my power rack that I bought is probably, you know, it's pretty high up there. I
Yeah.
don't use it as much as I should, but you know, that's just all around the most probably functional piece you can have. You know, you can do a lot of things with the power rack. So
Yeah, that side table you made, that's pretty cool, man. I noticed everybody in arm wrestling needs to build one of those basically. That's what it comes down to.
yeah, at this point, you know, I'd probably just buy one because the ones you buy they're a little more sturdy and they look much nicer.
Yeah.
But that one it serves its purpose, so I'll keep it until, you know, it starts falling apart.
Yeah, we've been experimenting a little with the max wrist handle by wrist ball. You know that handle?
Yeah, is
We've been
that the one
experimenting.
where your hands like that,
Yeah,
like
your
a
hands
flat?
cupped like this.
Hmm.
We've been experimenting a little bit with that for side pressure and just for wrist strength in general, and I'm digging it for sure. You definitely get a lot of fingertip pressure too.
Yeah, so for me, I'm surprised that you can't find it. At least I can't. But that 4-inch wrist wrench that I use, that I made out of a PVC pipe.
Oh,
Uh,
that's a huge wrist wrench. Yeah.
well, so it's got the strap on the back of your hand, which holds your hand in place.
Oh, okay.
Uh, but for me, I feel like that, like I should have been using that a lot more than I have been. Um,
Okay.
you know, especially like on side pressure movements, because I have the smaller wrist wrench, but it really doesn't try to pull out of my hand like that 4-inch one does.
Yeah.
So I think that 4-inch one kind of simulates a more realistic arm wrestling position.
Oh yeah, no, that makes sense because your hand's going to be more opened up when you're arm wrestling. It's not going to be, closed like a 2 3/8
Right,
or
right.
whatever wrist wrench. Yeah. I
When
mean
I just
that's
Yeah, I just noticed that 4-inch pipe, it just puts the what would you the straps. It puts the straps in an actual position where the when you move the weight, it really actually tries to force it open. Whereas the smaller ones really don't. They kind of,
yeah.
when you're doing the side pressure, it just stays in the same spot.
I feel like the smaller ones are really honestly best for like working up toward the inch, lifting the inch dumbbell.
Right, right, like pulling them from the floor and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I noticed that when I was pulling them from the floor, uh, your wrist cocked back is always stronger. So when I was always shooting for numbers, I noticed, well, this really isn't going to benefit me in arm wrestling because I don't want my wrist to get into that position.
Yeah.
Um, so I tried to focus more on doing like wrist curls and stuff with that in that position. I've never got to try that wrist max handle. So maybe at some point I'll buy one, but I got that 4-inch wrist wrench that I've just been using. So until it breaks, you know.
Yeah, that thing's pretty gnarly. I think that'll definitely build up some wrist strength for sure.
When I'm gonna do some experiment doing curls with it, like
Okay.
in the like concentration curls, kind of. Because I noticed for me, anyways, the guy I'm practicing with, he's about 330, I think, is what he said he weighed. So he's always getting me into that position, you know. He's always breaking my hand. That's you know, he's top rolling me. So I think that would be beneficial to do curls in that way, to where I gotta make sure I keep my wrist cupped.
Yeah,
So
for sure. And that's kind of what I do with the wrist wrench when I'm lifting with it. Basically, if my wrist starts to bend back, I just set the weight down because that basically means that I didn't get the lift. I mean, like you can lift it with your wrist in the cocked back position. Sometimes you can get the lift and get the pull off the ground, but
yeah,
in my opinion, you failed because,
right,
in my opinion, on the wrist wrench, the whole point is to keep your wrist in the cocked position and not let it go back.
right. And that's why I like that 4-inch one, because you really can't do that, because if you do that, it's just going to fly out of your hand.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, because it's huge. It would just fall right out.
Yep, yep.
That's a good idea.
So
Did you come up with that idea on your own, the 4-inch wrist wrench, or did you see some other people messing around with some giant wrist wrenches?
I had never seen it. I just kind of messed around with it.
I know I'd seen John messing around with some giant fat stuff for wrist curls.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's hard because there becomes a point where it's like it doesn't. It's more in your fingers. So I mean, you wouldn't think there's so many different ways to do wrist curls, but there is. There's just, you can use so many different size handles, and it's just crazy. So that's kind of what I'm experimenting with, trying to find a movement that is pretty beneficial for arm wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard to find that, because you want to find like a happy medium. There really is no one movement that's going to make you a great arm wrestler. You need, there's quite a few, in my opinion. And I'm really new to the sport, so I'm no expert by any means, but that's just what I've noticed, in my short time trying to get better at this. So
Yeah, I've noticed the same thing. Little tiny position changes, make a huge difference. And you see guys, top level arm wrestlers, doing an exercise and then change their position just a couple inches and then continue doing the exercise.
Well, yeah, and especially like when you're doing forearm curls, and you'll notice this, if your technique is just off by a little bit, like that's the difference, like you're not lifting the weight. And it's the same way, you'll see those guys wanting to set up their hand for a long period of time, and that's because they know that if you're off by a little bit, that can make you win or lose a match. So
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I see them break straps over and over again, or not break straps, but break the hold until they get straps and make sure it's absolutely perfect. And I think that's a psych game too. You're messing with the other guy, obviously.
Yeah, it's fun watching those guys when they do that stuff. I wonder how I will do when I go against somebody that tries to do stuff like that. I won't know till it happens, but it'd be pretty interesting to see. So
yeah, for sure. That's a big part of it, I think, is the mind game. I like that part for sure.
yeah. And then a lot of those guys, it seems like sometimes they take it personal, but it's like you can't, you're just, you're both there to compete. So
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't get mad. Good game, win or lose. Good game.
Yeah.
So, do you have any other advice before the average person trying to get fit at home, or do you have any questions for us, Couch Potato Strong, before we let you go?
I think just find what you enjoy doing, and then just stick with it. Fitness should be enjoyable, and you want to make it enjoyable for yourself. So whatever you enjoy, just do that, and for the long haul, you'll be in it for a long time. So I do I want to order one of those one of your potato handles.
Oh yeah, you'll get a set of potato handles just for being on and interviewing with us.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll be getting those out to you pretty soon.
All right. Yeah, I want to test it out and see what I can do. So
right on. Absolutely. What lift are you interested in trying?
Just picking it up first and
Deadlift.
Yeah, and just seeing from there. And then there's guys that do the pull-ups with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe I'll try that at some point. I'm not very good at doing reps. I'm kind of on the pull-ups. I'm better at loading weight onto myself. So
okay.
I think it'd benefit me to do reps. So maybe at some point I'll go ahead and just buckle down and try to do that. But
yeah, we've had guys do weighted pull-ups and reps with them. You just got to be careful doing super heavy pull-ups, because if you twist them, they will break. So you need to be careful.
Yeah, I have seen that. So yeah, you want to watch that.
You aren't going to be twisting your arms and doing pull-ups typically. That's not something happens. So haven't any
Well,
issues with that.
I might be able to accomplish that. I have some pretty bad luck with some things. So
Well, we hope not, but definitely the deadlift is a monster on the hands. Like everybody that tries it, they think they're gonna, typically pull more than they actually do, because it is just digging your hands into basically a rock surface, or digging your fingertips into a rock surface and crimping with your thumb and just going all out.
what made you guys come up with that handle?
It's just we say it grows out of the ground in the garden next to our gym, but it's just a wonderful conversation piece that makes people happy during the pandemic, and gets people talking about fitness and grip. So we just wanted to put a smile on everyone's face in the grip world.
Yeah, it's pretty neat, and I've been wanting to try it, so I'll be looking forward to it. So
Awesome. I think you're set number 101. So there we go.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be watching you and following your arm wrestling journey.
All right. Hopefully I make it worth watching.
All right. Well, take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You do the same.